This video is sponsored by you. Links to support the channel are in the description, along with the Discord server. See, I remembered to put them on the screen today. I don't know how I didn't last time. I must actually be developing dementia. Hello there, Arknights' most hated YouTuber here. Once again promising to never play Ra2 right before playing Ra2. So, Reclamation Algorithm 2 came out. I will admit it is a vast improvement over its first iteration. Now, instead of being actively f***ing horrible, it's just mildly boring with a dash of annoyance. The first thing you're gonna notice is that we now have cutscenes using the Chibi sprites, which is honestly really cool. Did it take them 5 years to realize they could do this? Yes, but I am glad they are here now, and they should definitely be implemented in other modes as well. It's way more entertaining and keeps your attention more compared to the normal visual novel style text, as now you get to look at the pretty chibis doing chibi things, rather than the same sprite over and over with slight facial expression changes. It allows the text to be far more dynamic, as you can actually see the actors move around and do stuff, given most of the time they just stand around, but the potential here is immense. In my mind, even a simple idle animation will always be superior to a still sprite. The progression was also vastly improved. The first Reclamation algorithm was so poorly explained by the bunny twink that people on YouTube had to do their own tutorials, which therefore led to feeling like a headless chicken running around randomly and getting your ass beat. Feeling which was greatly helped by the fact the game mode was built around pointless information gatekeeping. In Ra2, it is much clearer what you're supposed to do. The game outright tells you, and you have pointers on the map for where to go. There is quests to do, materials to gather, base progression to do, NPCs to meet, and so on. For the first time in Arknights' 5 years, it feels like you're playing through a story. It feels like a proper single-player game, where you're progressing through a story through your gameplay actions. For all its life, Arknights' story and gameplay have been very much disconnected. The story was told through visual novel slideshows, which yes, sometimes bothered to lead into the gameplay and give it an in-universe reason, but it never felt like your actions were progressing the story. In essence, the gameplay sections in normal Arknights stories amount to little more than ad breaks in between the endless cutscenes. And don't get me started on yes, you have a cutscene at the start and at the end. Gameplay and story could not be more disconnected. In Reclamation Algorithm 2, it genuinely feels like your actions are what drives the story forward. You rescued Kestrel, you're exploring the map to go meet up with Pepe, you're breaking this weird monolith to unlock the next area, and so on. The Chibi Cutscenes also help with this. The cutscenes straight up look like the gameplay, bridging the gap created by one part of the game looking like a Fate visual novel and the other looking like a very polished Flash game. This is the only true and proper single-player story in Arknights, which is a shame most people won't enjoy to its fullest. The mode is still based around pointless information gatekeeping, just like Ra1. However, this time it is much more forgiving and approachable. Ra1 was an unbalanced mess that challenged my belief in a benevolent god. The map was completely obscured, including its enemies, and if you guessed wrong, you would just get instantly skull-f***ed and forced back to the title screen for another solid hour of attempts that would die in the same way. Reclamation Algorithm 2 is far superior in this aspect. Rather than getting skull-f***ed, you get mildly annoyed and waste one precious daily act. You also have the option to load previous save files created automatically on specific days. The game mode was reworked completely to be more about doing one single long run, rather than wasting your life doing 5,000 runs that would all end the same way like in Ra1. This is why there is a lot less that carries between runs. You're not really meant to do many of them. But don't get me wrong, Ra2 is still disrespectful to the player's time like its predecessor. As I said before, the mode still relies on pointless information withdrawal. Information you have to learn over a long period of time, and that the game could have just told you. There is no reason why the map should be obscured beyond artificially increasing playtime. You could argue it's so more experienced players don't instantly realize you can clear a lot of maps using only cars, but if someone is so experienced to realize that on a first glance, that's something they should be allowed to do. All it ends up really doing is making the initial process of getting accustomed to the stages a nightmare for casual players. You go into stages not knowing if you have the operators to deal with it. This ends up actively removing strategy from the strategy game. Your first run in a new stage will amount to little more than educated guesses. That blob of static is acting a little different from the rest. Things of the such. This does nothing but alienate casual and new players, as they'll just feel like they got cheated out because the game is withholding information for no reason. What even is the lore reason for this, by the way? Is there a f***ing Persona 4 golden fog all over Sargon constantly? Are all my operators afflicted with darkness from Minecraft? What the f*** is happening? Why can't I just see the trees? Since Doctor is here as you play as him in the story, why can't Doctor see the map? Is he playing blindfolded for the fun of it? Though it is worth noting, you can check what enemies are in the stage, and you can hover over the map with a melee operator to see where the material deposits are. They are the tiles you can't deploy on, but aren't outright banned. Though this feels barely intentional and more a side effect that you can't lie to the player and tell them they can deploy there when there's a tree. But if this removes strategy from the game, then everything else about the mode is like a strategy steroid. This game mode requires so much more thought compared to everything else in the game, and I will always be of the opinion that Arknights is at its best when it makes you think. In Ra2, you always have to plan 3 acts ahead, manage your resources, your food, your materials, your operators, your gold, your base, and so on. Sometimes I even approached something resembling fun, which is not something I thought I'd ever say about Reclamation Algorithm. There's also the change that, rather than having a hunger meter, your operators can only be used once a day. I'd actually argue this is a good thing. It achieves what Ra was trying to go for in the first place, which is forcing you to get creative with your squad compositions. Though So, again, this massively punishes casual and new players, which most likely won't have 12 to 24 operators built to use each day, or at least not a versatile enough selection to accommodate for what the mode needs. The mode also feels way too stingy with materials. I end up bored as the early and mid game quickly devolve into endless material gathering so you can gather more materials more efficiently. It's almost reminiscent of a clicker game, or a Minecraft mod pack with 20,000 hours of playtime. The key difference being that in those games, you can very early automate the material gathering and production, making it passive. In Ra2, you have to go out every time and gather that shit by hand or using the cars. It's just a chore, plain and simple. Yes, there is a way to automate material production and make it passive in Ra2 as well, but in the early and mid-game it's still, as I said, way too stingy. You get way too little wood, about the amount for 4 to 6 gathering bots at most, every 6 days. Guess what you're gonna be doing in the meantime if you need it. I'm sure later on you get so many passive deposits that it truly becomes passive, the wood you get being able to last you the full 6 days in between each injection. But this is about the early and mid game, which are pretty frustrating with the materials. Let's not even mention that now you need stone for the gathering bots, adding just one tiny additional layer of annoyance. So, overall, I give Reclamation Algorithm 2 an 8 out of 10, which is 8 more points than what I was expecting to give this mode. Really, the main issue is that it alienates casuals and new players so much. I am enjoying myself, but only because I've reached the point where I know what I'm doing and what the game will throw at me. The process of getting there is tedious and plagued by trial and error and watching YouTube guides. Though it is also true that Ra2 provides an experience that is unique to it. Say what you will about IS or SSS or Annihilation, but it still boils down to the general Arknights gameplay. It's still deploying operators so that the enemies don't get to the blue box, be it 400 enemies, or being able to stack operators, or getting random trinkets in a randomized map. What Ra2 gives you, you can only get in Ra2. It's the most unique gameplay in Arknights, with it being the only true and proper single-player campaign in this game. And that's all, max out your Gummy, bye! Hello, welcome to the outro. We sell outros, we sell endings. Thank you for watching, and special thanks to the members and Patreons on screen now. In particular, Andre Mula, Mike Reguera, Come to Brazil, Zephyrinix, The Crazy Lord, New Takoyaki, Noobpo, Lord Takeo, Good Old Leon, Chromechan but JJF, and that's it, there's no one else. That's all, goodbye forever until the next video.